Online Pros back with my final mock draft edition. I believe this is the 7th one that I've done this year. Been a really exciting period, just kind of looking at where these players are going to land, and it's all going to come together. On Thursday, we're going to see what happens in the 2025 NFL Draft, but I did want to go through it one more time, look it over, and see who these guys are going to be, where they're going to fall, and what teams are going to get them. And let's start with Tennessee, pick one, a pick that has been pretty consensus, I think, now for quite a bit. And it's going to be Cam Ward. I think he's got the most upside as a quarterback in this draft. Don't know if he's the most pro-ready, but I think he can play. He's got a little bit of Caleb Williams in him, but definitely a lot of talent. He played at small schools like Washington State, was able to overcome the adversity there. Miami was a very high-powered offense with him at quarterback. If you're Tennessee, if you're Callahan, you need to bring someone in that is going to hopefully ensure that you don't lose your job next year because he's on thin ice. You go for a guy like Cam Ward, one of many things that they need in the draft. Next to Cleveland, and Cleveland's that team where I've had them drafting 4 different players, I believe, in this spot throughout the process, but it's pretty consensus at this point that they're going to get Travis Hunter, and I really like Travis Hunter as a prospect. Overall prospect-wise, he is my number one. He's the best player, most upside in the draft, and the key reason for that is because he knocks out 2 positions in one. He's a 2-in-1 player. I don't believe anybody in the history of the draft era ever has had that title where they could have the possibility to come in and knock out 2 issues within one player that they're getting. Really good cornerback, can be a really good, especially on the Browns who kind of lack offensive receiver talent. He's going to go right in there and he's going to play a lot of offensive snaps. And the Browns are set up here where they have the 33rd pick. Just go get a quarterback there. Don't gamble. You've been gifted the 2nd pick when you have a decent roster. Don't gamble on Shedeur Sanders, who I think could be good. Don't gamble when you have a generational guy, probably a sure thing, in Travis Hunter. I like Cleveland going with him at 2. Next here, the Giants, and I'm really torn between either Abdul Carter or Shedeur Sanders. Betting odds will tell you that Abdul Carter is the right pick in this spot. I think he's the 2nd most talented in the draft, potentially generational. I just think I've heard a lot of things of the Giants coming in and get it and taking another look at Shedeur Sanders. I think they get him. I think if you're Brian Dable and you're those guys, he will work with their system. They have Malik Neighbors, who's a great cornerstone. Their defense is already pretty well built. I don't know how much Abdul Carter could be a really good player, but I don't know how much that does for them in their particular situation. The objective does not change for Joe Shane, the GM, or Brian Dable, the head coach. They need to have a solid year. They're both gone. So if they want to do that, you want to bring in a guy like Shedeur Sanders, really a guy that's getting dogged right now, very accurate quarterback, able to sit in the pocket, deliver. And if you look at it, accuracy is so important in the NFL to the point where if he's able to do that properly, you look at Brian Dable, he did wonders with Josh Allen. I think he'll be able to put together a guy in Shedeur Sanders, who I actually think will have a really solid NFL career. Next, the Patriots. In this scenario, you've been gifted Abdul Carter. As I said, Mike Vrabel-led team, emphasis on defense. Abdul Carter, 2nd best player in this draft, in my opinion. Really, really good edge. Could be in that really solid edge. Myles Garrett, guys like Bosa, could be in that class. Not sure yet, but could be in that class. I like New England to take him at 4. You're Jacksonville here. Mason Graham's the right pick. They need better interior defense in Jacksonville. They need better defense in general. Get this guy. This guy wrecked Ohio State. This guy wrecked NFL level offensive linemen. going to be a really good player in the NFL. Vegas, at this point, it's looking like Ashton Genty. I like the pick if you look at it because it comes with a plan. That Raiders offense is going to be a lot more built out. Chip Kelly is now at the home. If you look at it, when he was in the NFL, LaShawn McCoy had his best years with Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly did wonders at OSU for Judkins, for Travion Henderson. It looks to me like he's going to be able to integrate Genty really well right off the bat. Because if you look at Ashton Genty and running backs in general, they have about a 5 to 6 year window. You want to hit the ground running. You do not want them on a project. You want them to hit the ground running. I think with Chip Kelly being there, with a very talented tight end in Brock Bowers, now you have a capable quarterback in Geno Smith. I like Ashton Genty going to the Raiders. The Jets, I like Tyler Warren going here. If you look at it, they have not had good tight end production in nearly a decade, have not been able to do it, have not been able to put together a solid tight end force. You got Justin Fields there next year. He is actually a very good thrower of the football to tight ends. So you want him to be as comfortable as possible if you want that to work. Tyler Warren, he's a do-everything tight end. Very similar guy to Brock Bowers, maybe more so, had more of a role on that Penn State offense. He was their do-everything guy. So I like him to the Jets. Carolina, you got to give Bryce Young a shot. You go with T-Mac, the wide receiver. There's been some questionable things that I think I've seen from how his team had success. But if you look at it, take a second to look at T-Mac's highlights, they're incredible. This is a great receiver. I think if you're Carolina, as I said, you got to give Bryce Young an opportunity. I like him go to Carolina. Next up, you go to the Saints here, and I like Will Johnson. You've lost, and Will Johnson, I think he's going to be an incredible corner in the NFL. If you're the Saints here, a lot of people are saying potentially Jackson Dart. I think they're going to wait. If you're them, you just lost Marshawn Lattimore. Getting Will Johnson here is big. I think he is going to fall later in the draft, and I like him to go to the Saints. Looking at the Chicago Bears, at this point, get Will Campbell. Just improve the O-line as much as you can. I know they've already made moves to get Joe Thuney, and they've gotten a few other guys. But if you're Chicago, do whatever you can. Improve it. Now, if you're going to San Francisco, like Jalen Walker, continue to build the defense. They lost a lot of defensive guys, in my opinion. I like them to build out the defense, continue to build out the defense. That is what I think their best bet is. Next, the Cowboys, I like them to get Shamar Stewart. This guy is one of the most talented edges in this draft. I like Dallas to go defense. It's kind of unclear for them with Micah Parsons. They're not 100% sure if they're going to commit to paying him long term. If I were them, I wouldn't. I would probably trade him. And I know that's going to be kind of rough. That's a conversation for another day. But you can get Stewart on the cheap, and it's a really solid player from Texas A&M, a guy that you need to take. If you're Miami, I like the offensive tackle from Miami. Not going to try to pronounce his name, but I have seen tape on this guy, and just a big physical offensive tackle, and I think he's going to be the steal of the first round potentially. Really, really strong tackle, and he's going to be able to protect Tua. Going to the Colts, I think if you're them at this point, I would go with an edge guy as well. I would go with Williams here from Georgia, another really strong edge, played in the powerful SEC. Should be a big contribution to them altogether. Going to Atlanta, continue to build that defense. I think Barron from Texas, really outstanding corner, really solid prospect. I don't know how good he will fare from day one, but give him a little bit of time. He should develop into a really strong cornerstone corner for Atlanta, a team that needs some help in that secondary for sure. Arizona, I think if you're here in the spot, Mike Green, a guy who would be drafted a lot higher if he didn't go to Marshall. This is a really solid pick for them. I like him going to Arizona. If you're Cincinnati, you're taking the best defensive player available. That's going to be Starks, the safety. Whoever is the best defensive player available is who Cincinnati just needs to take at that point. Seattle, I like them actually getting... Well, I like them going with an offensive lineman. It's just between Banks and Simmons. I'll give the nod to Kelvin Banks. I'll give the nod to him because Simmons we just haven't seen a lot of. Tampa, I like them to go with linebacker Campbell, Alabama. Seems like a good fit for them. They need to improve a little bit on defense. Why not bring Campbell from Alabama? Denver, I like Loveland there. Loveland on Daniel Jeremiah's best players in the draft. He's ranked like 7th on Daniel Jeremiah's, which I think is a little crazy, but you can kind of see it. He's got a really good tight end build, had a really productive career at Michigan. Just looks like a Sean Payton pick. Just looks like him to Denver makes a lot of sense for me. If you're Pittsburgh, I think there's a lot of things you could do. Hampton is going to go somewhere. He's going to go somewhere in this first round. Pittsburgh, they need to continue to add as much offensive power as they can because it's looking like they're not going to have a solid quarterback going into next year. They're either going to have to draft a guy a little bit later or they're going to have to play Mason Rudolph. It could be a disaster there. So Hampton, really, really powerful back. A lot of people like him as a running back prospect. Pittsburgh would be a good spot for him. If you're the Chargers, I do think they're going to go with Kenneth Grant. You lost Joey Bosa. This is one of Harbaugh's Michigan guys. I like them to get Grant, who's a really, really solid player. I think Harmon goes to Green Bay. Team that really likes to build out their defense, and I think this would be a good spot altogether. Nick from South Carolina, really, really solid safety that I feel like has not really been talked about and has kind of flown under the radar a little bit, but a really solid tight end, going to get the job done in Minnesota and help out that defense for sure. If you're Houston, I actually like Emeka Ibuka going here. I've heard that, he had a really good combine and he had some of the best interviews in the combine that some people have ever seen, according to Daniel Jeremiah, and just a really good locker room guy, really good route runner, great in the slot. I played really well with CJ Stroud. I think if he's sitting there at 25, it is a no-brainer for Houston to go out and get this guy. Lost Stephon Diggs, bring in Emeka Ibuka. I think it would work seamlessly and it'd be a great fit for Houston. Looking at the Rams, I like them to get Josh Simmons, a guy for Ohio State that, who knows, if he plays out the rest of that national championship year for Ohio State, we could be talking about top 10 pick here. But obviously, sustained that injury in that Oregon game. Haven't seen a lot of tape on this guy, but the attributes physically are there, and from the time that we did see him, he looked really good. So I'll have the Rams taking him at 26. Baltimore, I think you go Walter Nolan. If you're Baltimore, I think it's a solid pick for him. I think that bringing him in helps out their depth over their defensive line. That's where you got to go. And then if this works out for Detroit, this would be awesome for them. You get James Pierce Jr. They need depth up front on defense. This would be a slam dunk for them. They're hoping this happens. This would be as good as it can get for Detroit. Washington, I think if Matthew Golden's sitting here, I think you add some wide receiver depth. Even though they brought in Deebo Samuel, even though they have Terry McLaurin, never hurts to get more depth. If you're Buffalo, I like them going corner. They missed pretty badly a few years ago on Elam, and now they need a better corner. I like the guy from Kentucky. I think that they need to go secondary, whether it's him or whether it's someone else. For Kansas City, I do like Gray Zabel going there. I think with the loss of Joe Thuney, they're going to need more power on the offensive line. And if you look at it in that Super Bowl against the Eagles, their offensive line got torched. So they're going to want to bring in some young firepower. Usually don't like drafting guys from like North Dakota State in the first round, but O-linemen have always been a little bit different. The players, a lot more dedicated to their craft, and I think Zabel really is going to fit the model there in Kansas City. Then you go to Philadelphia, expect them to build out some defense a little bit, and I like them to take Booker. That right there was my final edition of the mock draft. I'm excited for the draft on Thursday. Let me know how you think it's going to go.